Yo, what up, YouTube? Okay, somebody sent me, or one of my YouTube subscribers sent me a link to an article about, well, let me read to you the title. Black men jump ship because a black woman doesn't know how to be submissive. Okay, and there's a big picture of Seal and Heidi Klum kissing, and this is what I've said before. You can't try to spark a serious debate, right? And try to, get people to get emotionally charged. Okay? Back in the day, yeah, these sorts of conversations were lighthearted, but it's serious now. Okay? To me, the whole idea of the failure of black relationships, I put it up there in regards to, education, healthcare. To me, it's a major issue. No longer is it this sort of, lighthearted conversation. As we can all see, it's pretty serious now. But you have people who still want to act as if it's one of those, lighthearted, fun-loving, hey, pop a beer, open type of conversation, and let's laugh and have a good time, right? We try to act as if it was lighthearted, but now people are, really crying. The whole idea of, I'm laughing, but I'm crying on the inside. Well, just based off of YouTube alone, it's clear that people are crying on the inside, and they're also tearing up on the outside as well. So, just reading the article and seeing this picture, it sets the wrong tone, right? And again, it's annoying because you have Seal on there, and we all remember when Seal was, I was 6'7" when he was big in the early '90s, and you had the Kiss from a Rose, and what's the other song he had? I forgot. He had that other major hit. A Little Crazy. I think that's the name of it. He was really big. And no one was checking for him. Okay? It wasn't like he was some major icon in the black community, and we just loved him and embraced him, and he went off and got Heidi Klum. Like, the boy went into hiding. He did his own thing. Right? But, you read the article and they have this big picture on there, and I'm like, well, what's going on here? Why is that there? Like, well, what purpose does it serve? I don't get it. Right? I really don't understand. Like, what are you trying to accomplish by putting it there? And this is what annoys me, because you'll have the women who will spearhead these conversations as if they're trying to help, but once again, it's the whole idea of we're just trying to exploit our fellow sister girl. Right? Instead of trying to actually get to some sort of issue. And they're in complete control. Like, I can understand if a black dude was doing this article or somebody else was, and, they're just trying to get the women to get, riled up and, to get them to, start saying whatever, right? People love to get under people's skin. But in a conversation of this magnitude, it doesn't help at all. So anyways, what was the title again? Black men jump ship because a black woman doesn't know how to be submissive. Okay, like I said before, the whole idea of black women need to let black men lead is completely wrong. Wrong. Let's say my job as a man is to get from point A to point B. I'm going to get from point A to point B. Now, you can watch me do it. You can step in my way, and try to compete with me. But if you're not careful, I will step over you. You may get knocked down. You may be pushed down. But I'm going to get from point A to point B. So whether or not you're letting me do so is not the issue. I'm already getting there. The question is, how peacefully can we both get from point A to point B? And will you have enough to be there when we get to point B? I would love to see you there with me when I get to point B. It's going to happen with you or without you. Okay? And you can get to point B in perfect health, or like I said before, you can get stepped on, but we're going to get there. So the whole idea of, the women have to allow us to get from point A to point B, please let us feel like we're men. No. It's one of those flawed arguments that's not true, but people hold on to it as if it's true. The whole idea of, black women all of a sudden controlling whether or not black men can lead and black men can be in charge. When in the hell did we ever decide that it was up to the women to let us lead? Right? It's one of those default positions that you start off an argument and everybody's, has this similar belief that it's up to the women to let the men lead, but it's like, how is that true? Where do we come up with that? Right? Why is that everybody's default position? It's not even true. Right? But anyways, that's just, a whole different can of worms. So we're going to get there regardless. But even then, the whole idea, we have to let our men lead, it's so overrated. And like I said before, there comes a point in time where when you have an issue that's affecting you, be serious about it. What kills me is the women want to come into these arguments about these topics and they don't have the proper mind frame. When this is about your life. It's like you're in class and you're taking an important class that will help out with your job or whatnot, and you take it seriously, right? Because you know the importance. But we have these conversations that, almost, pretty much mean life or death for a lot of black people. But, everybody's acting so cavalier, so nonchalant about it, right? Now, this is what I understand. Picture your relationship like a home, okay? You're building a home. You have a man and a woman. The man is responsible for building the actual physical home, so putting up the 4 walls and the roof and the pipes and all the other good stuff. Now, the woman is in charge of decorating it. So taking the actual physical house and turning it into a home. Okay? So I put up the 4 walls and you bring life to it. Okay? Where are we going to put the couch? How's our kitchen going to look? So in order for us to have a complete house, we're both working. But we're working on 2 different things. I'm working on the physical layout of the home or the house, and you're turning that house into a home. So I guess you're more so like the interior designer or decorator. Okay? And of course, we share the home, so we have to communicate. Okay? So there's going to be certain issues, right? So you may be doing something and I may want to put my input on, but I know it's your show. Just like if I'm, building something and you're going to have your input, but it's my show. Okay? So we know we have our clear set defined roles, but it doesn't mean that we can't help each other. Okay? So the whole idea of being submissive, every last thing that we have to get done isn't going to be some battle, because there's certain things that you are going to be in charge of, and there's going to be things that I'm going to be in charge of. Simple. Yes, there will be times where we both have to collaborate. Okay? And when we have that collaboration, at the end of the day, your input is equally as important as mine. But who pushes the red button? The man does. And this is what this all boils down to. Right? I'm not going to make a decision that you may not like. Right? I'm going to make a decision that, and hopefully you're trying to make a decision that works for everybody. Okay? But at the end of the day, who pushes the red button? I will push the red button. Why? Because I'm supposed to give my life for the family. If the family fails, I'm supposed to, be the one who's accountable. Okay? The women will always want to hold on to the whole idea of they're being emotional. I'm a mother. You have to bear with me. Fine. So in order for you to be the woman who has her emotional letdowns that you say you want to have, I have to be on 24/7. So I have to make sure that whatever we're going to do, I can hold down the fort. So that's it. Every day isn't going to be some epic power struggle. What are we going to eat for breakfast? Who's going to win out, right? I want pancakes. She wants waffles. Well, whatever you're going to make, honey. Right? It is what it is. It's not that important. Right? Yes, there will be some extremely important decisions that we both have to collaborate on. And like I said, your input will be equally as important. Okay? We will weigh out the facts, figure out what's the best choice for the entire family, and proceed. But at the end of the day, I have to feel comfortable with it. It's as simple as that. So it's not that hard. Really, it isn't. But we've had this situation, and you've had a lot of people who've never even been around any sort of productive relationship in their lives, who are the spearheads of this whole polarizing sort of, debate, who's going to lead. He shouldn't lead, I should lead, I make this, it's 2010, and people are just, I don't even know what they're talking about half the time, right? Because they're definitely not talking about how actual family works. And this isn't to put anybody down, but I'm sorry, there has to come a point in time where you have to know, if you didn't grow up in a family situation, sit down and let the people who actually been around a family step up and tell you what's going on. Peace out.